Hey, good job. You did it. You hit the dislike button. I always knew you had it in you. So do you want to hear me out? Or no? It's okay. I get it. I mean, the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack pricing is official, and we're all furious. So I should probably be furious, right? Well, let's talk about it. You still here? Okay, cool. That probably means that you're down to hear me out and for a bit more of a nuanced opinion than it's overpriced, and that's it. To be fair, if you think this service that I'll describe in a second for those who aren't already in the loop is overpriced, that's totally reasonable. No problems there. But I think there's some contextualization that the discourse is glossing over for the sake of a simple and convenient argument, you know? So that's what I want to tackle today. Basically, is the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack objectively a ripoff? To recap what exactly we're talking about, here in 2018, Nintendo released Nintendo Switch Online, which is a $20 a year cost to pay for a couple of things, namely the ability to play most online features in Nintendo games, like online races in Mario Kart, fights in Smash, upload stages in Mario Maker 2, or visit people's islands in Animal Crossing. Some free online games like Fortnite and Rocket League bypass this altogether and provide free access to online play. But if you want to play Nintendo games online, you'd for sure need NSO. Nintendo Switch Online, but I'm going to call it NSO for convenience most of the time. Other features are cloud saves, the mobile app with voice chat that's sometimes but barely used, and probably the actual biggest selling point besides the necessary cost for playing online is games. And honestly, this next part is pretty important to the larger point. So if this is all familiar information to you, which it very well likely is, you may want to still take note of this for later. At launch in September of 2018, there were only NES games as a part of the service, and only like 20 of them. At the time, there was promise of more added every month, but that's it. No talk of SNES or anything at that point. So the discourse around NSO, even at $20 a year or $1.67 a month, was that now we have to pay for Nintendo's Online, which is quote unquote bad across the board, cloud saves as well, a feature that some argued should be free, and access to some amount of games that, again, quote unquote, everybody already owns 10 copies of. And with that logic, you know, I can see how you could argue that those features are not worth the $1.67 a month. But if you listened to our podcast last week, you heard a couple of these counterpoints, and here's a couple of new ones for good measure. As to the online quality, it is completely game dependent. There are some games that run nearly flawlessly, take ARMS or Splatoon 2 for example, and then others like Mario Maker 2 or to a lesser degree Smash that are kind of garbage sometimes. The online connection isn't objectively good or bad, it's on a per game basis, and some of those games just do it terribly. But even with 1,000 times better service, that wouldn't change those games. And the new point I'd like to make, as for the NES games being, like valueless because of how many copies people own, yeah, if you're a Nintendo content creator or avid longtime fan, that's probably kind of close to accurate. But Nintendo is selling this service to, frankly, a much larger demographic than just you. Even I, who was a lapsed gaming fan, only have one other place to play most of these NES games, and it's the NES Classic, which is a great item, but not something I want to play often or for more than its novelty. Whereas the Switch is convenient as all get out. So all that to say, even the base value in 2018 of $20 a year being contested was pretty off base for the zoomed out Switch user base. And keep in mind, $1.67 a month. So what do you expect me to say when they add in more NES games and SNES games and Tetris 99 and Mario 35 temporarily and Pac-Man 99 and game trials? In short, while I think the initial reaction of the thing being overpriced was a bit narrow-minded and short-sighted, the nuclear gaming community just hadn't let go of that ideal, while the service's value has objectively jumped in value significantly between 2018 and here in late 2021. So you can absolutely still feel that NSO is a bad value for you. That's totally fair. Like a $99 discount from $1,000 to $10 on a premier fishing rod may be a great deal objectively, but I don't want a fishing rod, so I wouldn't pay any money for one because personal value is unique to me. If NSO isn't worth the money to you, That's fine. Which brings us to the main topic. On October 15th of 2021, we learned the pricing details about the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack at the tail end of an Animal Crossing Direct. And frankly, what a fun time. For context, my wife and I were watching the Direct together, holding our baby daughter, which I happen to actually be doing right now. Kind of random. And she, especially my wife, not my baby daughter, was over the moon for every little tidbit they announced for Animal Crossing, which was adorable. And the whole second half was Animal Crossing DLC details, which they announced was $25. And then right at the end, they announced that the DLC would come part and parcel with the NSO expansion pack. And as the frugal one of the family, I was thrilled. Which bears to mention something else with NSO. Yes, there's the $20 a year base price, which breaks down to $1.67 a month, but there's also the $35 a year family plan. This allows up to 8 users on one plan, and if all slots are used, breaks down to a monthly cost of 36 cents each. That's not even a cup of coffee a month, that's a cup of coffee a year. Truly a bargain. And we have 7 people on our plan, all of whom play Animal Crossing. So instead of 7 people wondering if they should shell out $25 for this each, I pay for the family plan expansion pack and everyone gets it automatically. I should mention, the expansion pack includes 9 Nintendo 64 games at launch, 14 Genesis games, all of which have online play newly added to all those Nintendo 64 ones as well, and the promise of more N64 games down the road. But the controversial thing that made people make so many videos is the price. For a single person, it's $50 a year instead of $20. So $4.16 a month to play N64, Genesis, and Animal Crossing DLC, in addition to, all the base stuff. But yeah, that's more expensive, for sure. And the family plan for 8 people instead of $35 is $80 a year. So $10 per person per year, or 66 cents per person per month. Also more expensive. So both of these are absolutely more expensive than I and most others expected, so I don't blame people for being frustrated on that front. But I also didn't expect Animal Crossing DLC, nor for it to be included in the cost, and across all accounts on the family plan. So for me, it is worth it. But again, value is subjective. Maybe Animal Crossing is your fishing rod. You wouldn't pay even a penny for it because you just don't want it. So at that point, are you being price gouged because of that DLC? Additionally, the Genesis games are definitely increasing the price because Nintendo's having to pay licensing to Sega. If you're legitimately only interested in like 2 N64 games, your personal value could very well be pretty low. But this is what I think gets conflated. The angry takes that are going on are assuming our personal value onto the market value. And sure, we could disagree with Nintendo for making this decision at all to bundle these services into one cost, but it may be a false argument to say that what's on offer is objectively not worth the cost, rather than not worth the cost to you, which I'll continually reaffirm is completely valid as a stance. But this is why I suggested to pay attention when recapping the 2018 announcement of and response to Nintendo Switch Online. When it launched, it was a contentious $20 price point. It was totally worth it to me, who wanted to conveniently play Metroid NES and Super Mario Bros. 2 for the first time ever, and parents to pay one low cost for their kids to have a library of games to keep them busy between releases. But other people were mad, and based on what was on offer, it, made some sense. But remember how SNES and Tetris 99 and other benefits all got added, despite Nintendo not announcing them at the service's launch? Okay, to note, we did know SNES games were coming, but because Nintendo had shifted how they were doing the service from when they announced it to investors over a year before, there was a conversation of whether it might have actually been taken away because they didn't mention it during the NSO's reveal. But, that's for another time. Back on topic now. What I'm getting at is that not only could Nintendo be planning more for their service down the road than they've announced now, in fact, I'm sure they'll do that for reasons I'll mention in just a second, but if reception is terrible to this service, the solution wouldn't be to lower the price, but to just make it worth the price by adding more stuff. It's like, on the podcast, we compared it to buffing everybody in Smash instead of nerfing some characters. If you want to level the playing field, make stuff better, don't make it worse. So they've announced a price, and it would look bad to their investors and plans for them to change that now, even if we'd be happy about it. But honestly, I'd rather just get more for my $4.16 a month or actually 66 cents a month because of the family plan, than just give in a bit of a refund and say, that's all folks, no more content. In other words, what's something that if they announced it, suddenly that $50 a year price tag wouldn't matter nearly as much anymore? For you, would that be, I don't know, Game Boy Advance games with localized Mother 3 maybe, or GoldenEye on N64, more DLCs, some free games of some sort? These are all things they could legitimately at least try to make happen, some being more challenging than others. And besides initial sticker shock, there's no reason for them to announce them right at the beginning to then miss out on more exciting announcement possibilities down the road. And they can't be vague about this stuff either. If they say, we'll add more DLCs to the service, then maybe you'd pay for a year for exactly that, and within that year, none of those expansions will appeal to you, and then your money will have felt wasted. This service is entirely optional, and it's better for everyone if we only pay for what we find valuable at the time that we find it valuable. And I wholeheartedly believe that Nintendo will be working to steadily make the service feel more valuable, and hopefully it's the value that you specifically are excited about. Because honestly, if they don't, they're just going to lose people eventually, and they don't want to do that. Okay, 2 more things before we're done. The second one's an experiment. We're going to break down the offerings of this service based on how much it's objectively worth if you wanted to play every game that's provided without emulating them, and compare that to the price of the expansion pack. But before that, I should mention that since the cost can be prohibitive and the family plan is honestly such a good deal, I created a channel in our Discord for people to be able to find others to join a family plan with. So figure out the owner and money stuff amongst yourselves. I'm not liable for that, but hopefully that helps you all save some money. Links in the description. And now the fun part. What's the cheapest alternative to play all of these games without the expansion pack, or the illegal way? We'll compare for just one person instead of a family plan, and I'll just let you figure out the even better deal that the family plan would be. All these games would be one-time costs, so I'll just assume for you that you have all of the necessary hardware for these games to make it as cheap as possible for us, even though I personally wouldn't have all of this hardware. So starting off easy, the Animal Crossing Happy Home Paradise DLC, $25. Next up, Nintendo 64. Of the games at launch, Mario 64, Mario Tennis, Mario Kart 64, Star Fox 64, Ocarina of Time, and Yoshi's Story are all $10 on the Wii U eShop. Sin and Punishment is also on the Wii U eShop, but for $12 whole. However, Dr. Mario 64 is not on there, and neither is Win-Back Covert Operations. So a loose cart of Dr. Mario 64 would run you between $15 and $25, and about the same for Win-Back. So we'll just say $20 for each. But more N64 games are on the way. These are Pokemon Snap, Majora's Mask, Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, Mario Golf, Paper Mario, and F-Zero X, all of which are on the Wii U eShop for $10 each. And then finally, Banjo-Kazooie, which is on Game Pass, but for this video we'll use the cheaper one-time cost of $15 to buy it outright on the Xbox. So assuming you have a Wii U, which is about $125, an Xbox One, which is at least $150, and a Nintendo 64, which is at least $75, that probably includes one controller, but definitely not enough for 4 players, and no online for any of these, the N64 offerings we know about so far would incur a one-time cost of $187, or $437 with the additional consoles. And now for Sega Genesis. There are 14 games that we know of so far, and 9 of these, Sonic 2, Streets of Rage 2, Rise Star, Shining Force, Shinobi 3, Phantasy Star 4, Gunstar Heroes, Golden Axe, and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, are all available in the $30 Sega Genesis Classics collection on Switch, which honestly is a great deal if these games are exciting to you. There's 50 games in that collection, and while a bunch of them are filler, I'm sure, there's a bunch of real classics as well. But what about those other 5? Well, 4 of them, Strider, Echo the Dolphin, Contra Hardcore, and Castlevania Bloodlines, are on the Sega Genesis Mini Console, which is, sold out in real life, but you can find one on eBay for upwards of like $80 or more. But the last game, Musha, really has no releases besides the original, which is around $300 for a loose copy. So if you really wanted to play all these games, don't get the Sega Classics collection, but get the Genesis Mini, because it's got all of them except for Musha, and then Musha for a combined $380, depending on the market at the time, because that's all eBay based and stuff. Or without Musha, $80. We'll go with that one. Or just $30 for 9 of the 14 games, if you don't care about those other ones. So now if we put all that together, we're looking at a minimum total of $292 to play every game except Musha, or, $592 with it included, and over like $1,000 if you don't have any of those consoles besides a Switch. But even at $292 for all but one game, the base offering of the NSO expansion pack has a current market value equal to 10 years of the service, the $30 upgrade versus the $292 of the game offering without Musha. But of course, I'm confident the value will only grow over the years too. Even at a $300 to $1,000 objective value, maybe this service is still your premier fishing rod. I don't know that that's even a thing. Oh well. And you only want to play like 3 of the N64 games. In that case, I'd say either wait until there are enough features to make it feel worth it to you, or find a way to make it cost less for you by going in on it with some friends. In the end, as gamers, we nickel and dime this stuff, but even the family plan is less expensive than Netflix or Spotify or Hulu, within a year or months or whatever. And I'd sometimes go months without using Netflix at all. Value's pretty subjective, and that if this isn't for you, that's totally fine. In the end, Nintendo will make sure that this product is worth what the market says it is. And let's just hope the market agrees with what we all do. So they incentivize the service more and more. But that's what I think. What do you think? What would reasonably make this service worth the, cup of coffee a month to you? And also, don't forget the Discord channel to sign up with others. Let me know all that stuff and more down in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to fanatixfour for more content like this every Tuesday and Thursday. Nope, that's not true anymore. We just do it twice a week, or once a week, but 2 videos. It's 2 videos within a week. Who knows what happens? We're testing stuff out. But we have a good old time. And then go listen to our podcast. We got a podcast this week. We'll, depending on when this video goes up, we'll pull some of those comments and talk about them. And it'll be a grand old time. Honestly, I've recorded this whole video with my daughter just sitting in my lap. She's almost 6 months old and very, very cute. And right now she's like sucking on my thumb. So what a weird time. Thanks so much for listening. Have a good time. Peace and blessings.